the team at auction. They handed Henri the keys, said, there you are, there's your team back.
It's just amazing, isn't it?
Oh, what a great story.
Le Mans is not the same without Henri Vascarolo.
One day they make a film about this and no one would believe it. Won't be Hollywood either. So talking of Hollywood, there is a film being made at the moment. I don't know if everyone's aware, but they want to cover the Ford Ferrari years, and then Carroll Shelby's times at Le Mans. So look for a feature film one day about Shelby racing at Le Mans. That's going to be something.
Wow, I was not aware of that. Incredible. Right,
so we've got a caption up saying car 73 rejoins. That's Oliver Beretta, of course, who was stuck down at Arnage, having had a problem, and just going out of the pits there. We're in the pits at Joey Hand at this moment in the BMW. Corvette guys congratulating each other, not quite sure what on.
Good pit stop, probably.
Yeah.
Most teams, you know, keep at this stage, they've had no sleep, they're all tired. It's just a matter of keeping everybody going and feeling positive about everything they do, and that, you know, that's what the crew's there to do, is to do amazing pit stops, be absolutely dialed in, be 100% all the time, and absolutely they should congratulate each other when they do a good job.
Getting Mags out,
has just taken over that
from Ollie Gavin. So and there's Joey Hand rejoining the track in the number 56 BMW, drops him down the order a little bit. Patrick Piet in the 76 car, Porsche, he moves up the order, takes over that place just for the moment. But again, as up at the front of the field, you know, even the GTs are changing places of every pit stop.
They are, and I think we're really going to start to see things shaking up, especially as certain teams have little problems here and there. It's so important at the front of these classes that nothing at all upsets the order if you want to stay at the top. I'm waffling now, I'm not really speaking well, but anyways.
Liz, what are you doing?
Oh my goodness. But basically, no one can get anything wrong at this stage. Everything's got to be dialed in, the consistency's got to be there, the pit stops have got to be spot on, because that's what the race winner in each class is going to come down to.
Yeah, I mean, we've had 16 hours of racing now, and having got this far, the last thing you want is to go no further, and this is what everyone is trying so hard not to do, is to break the cars, to have any moments, but they're still pushing hard. Lotterer then has just backed off a little bit. Of course, he's just been in the pits, hasn't he? So
he's just had full tanks.
Backed out again, so he's on an outlap at the moment.
Probably the biggest cushion that we're seeing actually is in LMP2, where the Greaves Zytek has actually got a 2-lap lead of the second place car of Orica. So that's the biggest gap we're seeing. But isn't that the car that had a crash? The Orica car. Is that still, were they just on a huge lead ahead?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So that's sort of chipping away. So really, we know that car has been officially retired. So it's actually Christophe Bouchy that's in second place. So that's an even bigger lead. They've currently got a 4-lap lead on that car.
Yep, that's right.
So I think at the moment, with that in mind, the key for them is going to be keep it really consistent, keep it safe, keep it put together. Oh, number 81 car with a definite problem. Whoa.
Yeah,
is it a rear tyre?
I think it's a tyre gone.
Yeah, rear tyre. No. Yes. No.
He was locking up the right front there, so what would suggest like perhaps it was a rear puncture or something.
That was a huge lock-up though. Definitely Flying Lizard is happy to see this happening.
Oh dear, oh dear. Hopefully we might see that again. Here he comes, just...
You see the gravel filtering out from the underbody of the car there.
He's back up to speed now, but probably no more than a massive lock-up, as you say, but that can also, of course, give you a big flat spot on that front tyre.
Yeah, and then the car will be handling like a Fred Flintstone's car. It'll not be very nice, a 50p piece. And you can see he's
lock-up.
He's slowing now, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got a problem there. It's probably it's much more than just gravel, but it's probably could be a puncture.
Now that is Seth Neiman at the wheel. He would be, you know, probably more the amateur in the car, really. Seth's definitely no Le Mans rookie. He's been here a couple times now. Been on the podium, in fact, I believe. But certainly, I think maybe there's a problem there with that car, because that was a very, very long, drawn-out lockup. So I wonder if something's gone wrong there.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about the podium. 2005 with Johannes van Overbeek and Lonnie Pechenich. So no rookie. This is his he has had 6 participations. So
yeah.
This is his 7th. So 70 car. Then this is the car that started all the chain of accidents on Wednesday, didn't it? Going back, Raymond Lerac putting this car heavily into the wall at Porsche curbs. He is, of course, a Porsche dealer at Rouen. So they took the car back to the workshops at Rouen. Some say they didn't actually bring the same car back, but that would be, I'm sure that's absolutely scurrilous, that, isn't it?
Very cynical, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so, but there they are, running well, and that car itself.
Here's a replay of the Peugeot. Something happened here.
I think just...
or is it just a nice slow-mo shot? It is, yeah.
Just give them some shots. This is sun up.
I think we're summing up our leaders, really, at the moment.
Yep.
So this would be our leader in LMP2. LMP1, sorry, GTE Pro category.
Jan Magnussen.
And then we'll be looking for, there he is, Seth Neiman in the 81 car just before he had that moment off. Those are our leaders. So Seth had a 50-second lead over Gabriele Gardel, so he's obviously lost that now, and he'll go tumbling down the order.
This is going to be a lot of pressure for Seth, really, because he wouldn't be the quickest driver in that car. And he's just come in. They're going to lose this lead now.
Yeah, he's made it.
Yeah, Gabriele Gardel is definitely going to come in.
Very slow lap.
Yeah, he was crawling around there.
Yeah.
It looks like he's got, I think, probably a left rear puncture or something. The car was sort of pitching a lot as it came into the pits there. Doing a driver change as well.
So Seth out of the car.
Gravel on the inside of the...
Spencer Pompelli will take over because Darren Law was in the car an hour ago.
You can just see them plugging things in. It looks like this team's using cool suits. You can just see the sort of tubes hanging out of the driver's suit. That's actually a shirt with water piping sewed in around it, and they plug it into a cool box in the car which pumps cold water around them. I can't imagine that they actually need that right now, especially with the new ruling saying that you must have the core temperature of the car at 30 degrees Celsius, I think, and no hotter.
32.
32, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So you know, and it's quite cool outside, actually. It's very cool. So, but you know, it's each driver their own.
Maybe it was hot water.
Porsches are hot.
Hot bath water. Keep them warm.
Hey, you never know.
Those cool suits are fantastic. I just used one recently in Sebring, into 12 hours of Sebring when I raced there.
Now what Damon is
Black Swan.
When he won that. Yeah, but he's very modest.
we did have a class victory in the GTC with Tim Pappas and Sebastian Bourdais and myself. Black Swan Racing. Hello to you guys.
Yeah, I have to say it's a great honour sitting in the commentary box here with 2 Sebring winners, and Liz, of course, your win with Intersport Lola in P2. And,
Stuart,
no, he hasn't.
You haven't won.
He hasn't won yet.
Poor Stuart.
So what?
Yeah. No, and hello to Intersport Racing as well. I hope to see them out there with a big car again soon.
John and Klim, what are they up to at the moment?
I don't know. They had an LMPC car they were trying to run, but I don't think they've got a big car out at the moment this year. But I hope for them they do a real sort of family team that goes out to have a good time and enjoy the racing. And they always say we're just here to have a good time, but in having a good time they are very, very fast. I have to say. And you know, I enjoyed a Le Mans finish here with Clint Field and Duncan Dayton in 2006, and that was the same year that we won Sebring and were second overall. Yeah. So it was a great year, and we had a really good time in that car.
Well, we look forward to seeing you back in the prototype saddle at some stage. There's
I hope so.
our Eurosport France colleague Paul Belmondo, son of the France's most famous film star, Jean-Paul Belmondo. Paul himself a mean racer all through those BPR years, driving for Oreca, of course. As in comes the 55 car routine stop. Didn't seem that long ago, but this car came in, does it? But Dirk Werner taking it over.
They've had a disappointment, haven't they? Disappointing campaign. I think they were expected to do much better.
Yeah. Problem here for one of the Lola Toyotas.
No,
was it not? No,
I think it's just
they're just a long shot, wasn't it? Thought for a moment it was going slow.
Yeah, it did look slow for a minute there, but I think it's not. I think it's all right. I think we're still going. But yeah, that 55 car is the one that I believe had a problem with a misfire earlier and was in and out of the garage throughout the night.
And then the 56 car, they had a front puncture which did a lot of damage at the front end, and they had to change much of the front end, including all the brakes.
So they will be trying very hard to claw their way back, but unfortunately the leader in that class is on lap 209, and the best the best BMW, which is the number 55 car of Dirk Brenner, is on lap 207, I believe, 206 maybe, so
nothing
a little
wrong,
bit behind.
Nothing wrong with this car. Neil Jani has just done his car's fastest Sector 1 time, and that car is running 6th overall. They're trying to close down the gap on the Pescarolo ahead of him, Christophe Tanso, but they've got 3 laps to catch up. That's a tall call.
Which is not impossible at this stage of the race. We still have a lot of hours remaining. We've got, 8 hours at least remaining in this, or 7.5 in fact. But at the same time, it just depends on the consistency of the cars in front. That's really what it comes down to. And the teams that are a couple laps down will be hoping that somebody will slip up along the way or have a problem.
Yeah, and of course that car hopefully bringing Toyota back into Le Mans racing, just the same way that Signotech is bringing Nissan back in. Not just Signotech either, Zytec. Also the Zytec Nissan helping to bring them back. We are beginning to see this resurgence now with Japanese manufacturers. I think the fact there's going to be a world championship has really concentrated Japanese minds.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think there's now going to be a new opportunity for different manufacturers to be showcased around the world a bit more on a regular basis than they were before, and also the addition of the production-based engines in LMP2 I think has helped bring that in and given some of the manufacturers a new opportunity.
Damien, here's a car I think you probably saw quite a lot of, didn't you, in March when you were busy winning Sebring? He was doing the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sebring, I guess, is a bit like Le Mans, but in terms of, there's not a lot of space sometimes. We were just looking at the Porsche curves there, and one of these guys was passing a GT Porsche, and the GT Porsche was sort of probably surprised to see him coming there. But it's amazing how sometimes you have to, sort of give half a second to let a prototype pass because it's the best thing for you. And it just depends where you are on the track at the time. But yeah, certainly in Sebring we saw a lot of these guys. They've overtaken us quite a few times. Yeah,
so this car at the moment was down in 7th place. It's behind the 2 petrol cars, the Pescarolo and the Rebellion Lola Toyota of Neil Jani. We were just following a moment ago. Nick Napier on board that number 10 car at the moment. We saw Hugh de Schoenack in the pit there with Rack Duval standing beside him, just watching progress. Look at this great train down the Mulsanne. 22 car there.
That car's had a very good run so far. Touch wood again. Yeah, no, it's great to see that car running so well on circuit, and especially with 2 of those drivers coming from FIA GT primarily. I think it's Martin's first Le Mans, isn't it? First 24 hours.
Yes, it is indeed. Maxime Martin. Yeah, he's making his debut. Vanina Ricks, of course, and Vanina Ricks, an old hand at Le Mans. Baz Linders, it's his 2nd race, but still a wonderful looking car, this, isn't it?
And this is an all Belgian car as well, and in the same car I believe that Vanina drove last year, so she's definitely going to be feeling comfortable in this car. They had a really good run right up until the end when an accident finished them off in the race, but they had run very strongly in that race as well. So
that car running 3rd in the petrol class, which is some consolation, I suppose, behind...
as you can see from the pit crew there.
Yes.
Everything's going fine. They're asleep.
But still a wonderful looking car. Again, it begs the question, why did Aston Martin go so far away from this concept with the AMR1? If you're just joining us, the bad news was that last night, the 2nd of the Astons retired, 009, 007, the first 2 retirements of the race. And between them, they ran only 6 laps in the 24 hours.
I think the difficulty for Aston Martin was they knew that they needed to roll with the new regulation changes, and at some time, sooner or later, they were going to have to change them, and there was no time that was a great time to do it. And I think they just had to take the leap and say, well, this year is going to be for learning, and just deal with what came. But I do believe they definitely thought they'd make it a bit farther than 6 laps, and I do feel for them.
It was a brave move. I mean, Aston Martin traditionally V12 engines, and here they are, Damien, with a 6-cylinder 2-litre turbo, which interestingly Audi's Dr. Boretsky had said you can't do a 2-litre 6-cylinder. You've got too much crankshaft vibration. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, and how many laps did they last?
We think it was 6 between the two cars.
6 between the two. I think it was lap 2, 3 or something. They were having difficulties, which was a shame. I guess they were probably prepared for a short race.
Oh, definitely. I mean, when I spoke to Darren Turner before the start of the race, I think he sort of said, well, look, I haven't mentally prepared for the car to go that far, so if it's still going and I get woken up at 4 in the morning, I'm gonna have to pull myself together. But you know, they've all been very diplomatic about it and sort of said it's a 3-year plan. It's the start of a big picture, and I think they're gonna have to keep working away. But certainly it's been a disappointment for them. And Dave Richardson himself has apologised to all Aston Martin fans and promised to redeem himself.
Well, they brought a lot of guests as well, didn't they? So that makes it even harder. We have got Astons running though, and I hope they're all watching that Belgian run car at the moment. So a lot going on here out in the track still. This is that Pat Long we're looking at? Is that
that's the 81 car, I think.
That's the 81, not the 81 Lizard. Yep, the blue Lizard. One's orange, the other's blue, but they're both of them carrying those flags of the drivers who've won Le Mans outright for Porsche since Porsche came here. 16 outright wins since Porsche first came here in 1951.
Meanwhile, back at the front, it's sort of nip and tuck between lap times between Sebastian Bourdais and Andrea Lotto, Audi. With Bourdais putting in a 3-minute 27.7 and Lotto 3-minute 27.9.
Yeah, there is our race leader, the number 9 car, Bourdais, with Genet fending off Trullier at the moment. There we are. That's the second place. Battery just picked up on the gap between those 3 cars, the 3 lead cars, 26 seconds after more than 16 hours of racing. Lotterer is 5 seconds behind Genet at the moment in 3rd place. That is Genet, and there's Lotterer. You can see him now. And Lotterer at 2 seconds quicker than Genet on the last lap, so he's starting to haul him in again.
Now, where some action's going on here now is in the GT amateur class. Gabriel Gardel, who we just talked about earlier, saying he's, you know, not really an amateur, has just done the quickest first sector time for that car of the entire race. So he has definitely been given some team orders to capitalise on Seth Neiman's mistake. Spencer Pompelli's been cleverly put back in that car. He beat quite a bit quicker than Seth, but they are not a very big gap, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, you say not a big gap, 0.7 of a second last time round. Yeah, that has really woken up, hasn't it?
Yeah, and Gabriel's currently doing a second a lap quicker than Spencer, so he's going to need to pick it up.
Really having to play the traffic there, thread the needle as Lotterer works his way past the Aston Martin coupe. Bourdais then just given a little break at the moment, 19 seconds ahead of this battle.
Yeah, there's only, what was it, 8 seconds or less between Genet and Lotterer.
Yep.
With Lotterer putting in a faster first sector, but a second slower sector. So they're just fighting their way through traffic.
Yeah, in fact, he's bought that, that gap is 8 seconds at the moment. Still there.
Those lights are incredibly bright, aren't they, in the front of that Audi? Even in daylight.
Yeah.
And you know, that really does make a difference though. When you're in a slower car, it actually really helps having those particular cars with brighter lights, because you know who it is that's coming. You know, and we've seen that the LMP cars have the white lights and the GT cars have the yellow, and that is very, very helpful when you're being passed, or when you actually even see anyone in your mirror coming around a corner. You sort of know, is it someone who's going to be passing me, or is it just somebody who's out on the track?
So Genet's responded. He's obviously got the word from Peugeot. He was quicker on that lap, and he's opened the gap up again to now 8 seconds. 8 seconds on that last lap. So Genet just speeding up a little bit. They seem to have the ability to do this, don't they? Go faster, go slower, and they can do it to order.
A lot depends on traffic. You know, we're not catching the full laps here, but I mean, obviously there's still a lot of cars out on the track, and you know, you can just be unlucky and get traffic at the wrong time.
Yeah, on board then, going down to the first chicane, the PlayStation chicane, right at the industrial estate, running down the RN128. This is the road that goes all the way from Alençon down to Tours, through Le Mans, and of course it is the Mulsanne Straight. So truck traffic during the week, 220-mile-an-hour prototypes at Le Mans weekend.
And we have talked about this. It's what makes Le Mans special is the fact that there's the two different ones. And oh no,
Felbermayr car.
Is that the 83?
That's the 83 car.
No, that's a. Is that?
It's the Felbermayr.
Yeah, definitely.
Looked like, I thought it was the Porsche, but.
Oh no,
it's a
there's. I
Corvette
think there's been contact there. Oh, this is a disaster for Corvette.
Corvette's got a.
And like that is the race. That is the leader.
Yeah,
that is the leader.
Magnussen. So who's he had contact with?
He's had contact with that Porsche.
It's coming up to the Ford chicane,
just down in front of us. Yes, yeah. It's.
Let's see if we can see a replay.
I wonder, was one of them going to the pits or something?
Well, this is what always happens time and time again. So they've had, as you say, contact. Looks like the Porsche might have run into the back of him.
I don't know. I thought we saw these two dicing together, so...
Yeah, the Corvette was behind him.
But it's,
a couple of laps ago.
That looks very broken. He's so close to pit lane, though. I mean, surely if he can get it in. The team definitely looks like they're getting ready for him to come in, but it's going to be a matter of if he can get him going again and get out of the gravel.
There's debris up here where the marshal is clearing the road, so they've had contact way back up there.
Oh,
I'm just wondering, was one of those cars going for the pits and cut across the other one, just like we see there?
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a safety car period. I'm worried one of these marshals is going to get run over in a minute.
Well, there's a lot of debris there, and look, that's going to be puncture material unless they.
Yeah, no, I think yeah, we're going to need a safety car for this, definitely. Just for the safety of the marshals as much as anybody else. I think we're going to see a lot of punctures come out of this situation.
And we're just showing the 81 car, also the Lizard car is crawling around. That's the one that Spencer Pumperly just took over. That blue car there is a Felbermayr car, isn't it?
Interestingly, there's no marshals has come to the aid of Magnus in the gravel trap there. He's just sitting there alone.
He's probably on the radio, isn't he? Just talking. Safety car, we've got it, as you quite rightly called there, Liz. No alternative. They've got cars either side of the track. So this is safety car number 5.
And I think this will be quite a long safety car. There's a lot of debris. You know, they're going to have to get both of those cars brought in. I mean, nothing like what we saw yesterday, but certainly it won't be 5 minutes.
Maybe just an hour.
So Corvette looking so strong until just 2-3 minutes ago, and Jan Magnussen only 2 laps out after his pit stop, and this is handing everything to Ferrari at the moment. Of course, Tony Viander has just made a pit stop, gone out again, so he's fully fueled up now. And Corvette looking very, very concerned about that. The other Corvette, of course, will move up into second place, Olivier Beretta. So down the Mulsanne now behind safety car. Medical car getting out, so they have called for medical attention there.
And this could just be precautionary or could be necessary.
So this is what happened.
Oh, that's the Corvette's fault there.
Yeah,
he's gotten loose. He's caused that.
Magnussen has lost it.
And that's a big impact.
Oh, huge into the wall.
They're out.
And he's caused that completely.
Yeah, he just suddenly veered into him, didn't he?
Oh, he just lost it. He just lost.
So
Magnussen lost the back end on his way in.
Yeah.
Well, it was just on the way out of that corner there,
yeah.
and Magnussen wasn't the inside of him.
And then
very fast corner.
It's off camber there as well, isn't it?
And then overcorrected and whacked straight into the Porsche. So the Porsche, the innocent victim of that. So safety car out again.
That's the left-hander coming out of the Porsche curves, which is
just the kick.
Such a difficult corner and very, very low grip as well.
And that was a big hit for the Porsche, wasn't it? It's probably
Actually, yeah, that is just the flat out right left before the Ford chicane. He's gone on the inside of the Porsche,
so is the
tighter line and just lost it. You can see the back end stepping out.
That's not a place that you would normally
be able to overtake.
Normally lose. Well, no, it is. It's not a place where you'd normally lose the car like that, I wouldn't have thought.
We've just got confirmation it is the 77 Felbermar car, Wolf Hensler on board, and Wolf, of course, himself a GT2 winner here last year with Mark Lieb and Richard Leitz. Same crew, same car.
And as Stuart rightly corrected me, that was actually the kink coming down. It's not in fact the left-hander out of the Porsche cars, it's the kink afterwards, which just looks tighter on the TV than it really is.
Yes.
In a prototype car, it's completely flat out. In a GT, I think you may need a tiny bit of a lift. But certainly I wouldn't have expected to see that level of an accident there, and it's like he just lost the back end completely.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll hear what happened eventually, but yeah, Magnussen's so experienced here. I doubt if it's a driver error. Maybe something in the car broke, or maybe something locked up. So safety car out again, as we say, for the 5th time in this extraordinary race. And of course, this is going to play into the hands of Peugeot.
I've just seen some other information that apparently the 71 car, that's Michael Waltrip and Rui Aguas, has retired due to a broken differential. So that is a real shame after those two have had to pick up the pieces after Robert Kaufman was excluded.
I think a lot of people would like to have seen Michael Waltrip get that finish here, wouldn't he?
Absolutely.
One-time NASCAR Sprint Cup winner at the moment. Probably more coming, but that Wolf Hensler, that was a huge impact with the wall. Mags is still in his car. I think he's the commissars are saying, what do we do with him? He refused to get out of the car. Of course, what he's doing, he's talking to his garage, and they'll be telling him all sorts of things to try.
He took quite a hit as well.
He took
backwards
a huge hit
into the barrier.
For the back end. So I think that car could be finished, but he's so close to being in the pits because he's bounced all the way into the pit lane.
Yeah.
That surely what he's trying to do is figure out if there's any way he can get that car into the pits.
But yeah, he was completely in the pit lane, but then obviously couldn't take the left and just went straight into the gravel.
Yeah.
But it seemed that he's just like lost the rear end, and then it just penduled him back the other way and into the side of the Porsche.
I'm sure we'll be seeing that again in a moment.
It's a heavy accident.
Have another look in a minute.
Liz, I think you're right. That safety car is going to be out for
there's so
the medical
much debris, and there's 2 cars with a lot of damage that they need to remove. I don't think either car is moving on its own accord at the moment.
And 2 drivers in them.
Yeah. Exactly. So I think this could be a while.
One of them, obviously, they're concerned about, and so scenes again from the Rolex Air Cam. Not the scenes we've been wanting to see in this extraordinary race. 5th caution period. One of those stretched to 2 hours last night after Mike Rockenfeller's massive accident down at Indianapolis required an hour and a half of rebuilding barriers once they'd rescued him from the car. So,
and we understand that the medical team is attending to the number 7 car, which is Wolf Hensler in that car.
Hensler, yeah.
And he did take a huge impact from both the Corvette and the wall.
Of course, both of them factory drivers. Wolf, former Porsche Carrera Cup champion, Super Cup champion, I think, as well. Yeah, as well. Yeah, German and Super Cup champion, factory driver, and of course a Grand Am champion as well in GT.
And I think he was just, unfortunately, the wrong guy in the wrong place at the wrong time in that accident.
Yeah, so the number 9 car, race leader Sebastian Bourdais, the man from Le Mans, gets fettled on lap 238.
Simon Pagenaud getting in there.
Pagenaud, of course, who made his name racing in America. Some extraordinary drives with Highcroft.
No, he's done a brilliant job out there, and pretty much everything he's been put into, he's been very, very fast. And well, I think he's done Champ Car before, doesn't he? Or
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and he did well in that as well.
Yeah. So it's great to see Duncan Dayton here this weekend. Highcroft, of course, having finished 2nd at Sebring, suddenly found themselves without Honda pulling out of sports car racing. Ironically, just at the time that in Europe, Nissan and Toyota and possibly Mazda as well are looking at coming into sports car racing. But Duncan here to promote the Delta Wing car that they're going to run here next year. Here it is again. Just talk us through this, Damien.
Well, you can just see that Magnussen's on the inside, obviously trying to overtake Wolf Hensler there. But he's just lost the rear end because obviously, you know, he's slightly offline there. having been trying to pass Wolf Hensler, but he's just lost the rear end, and then it's come back on him when he's corrected it, and just speared into the side of them, and then just pitched both of them into the wall.
I don't know, I wouldn't have expected that to happen in that location, but it may have been that he had so much speed on and had to put a little bit more lock into the wheel in order to pass down the inside of that Porsche, and by putting that bit more lock on, maybe he's just throwing the rear out a little bit.
That's just after the Porsche curves, though, and that's just after that final left-hander that's off. Absolutely, but it's not. I wouldn't have thought he would have that more speed to overtake. So obviously Wolf Hensler had a bad exit from the Porsche curve. It's
definitely a quick corner, but it shouldn't have been the magnitude that it was there. And so I question if maybe there's a bit of debris on the track already. Maybe there was some gravel down, maybe something on the surface of the circuit that's helped him lose the back end of that car, because it really snapped around on him. And like I say, it makes me wonder if there was something else there that's caused that.
I think, you don't expect mags to make mistakes like a mistake like that. So.
And you don't expect it to go in that place on the track. So we'll wait and see what we hear back from the Corvette team.
Yeah. Broke on the car?
Could be. Or a high-speed blowout or anything like that could have done it.
So
Puncture could have done it.
Oh, they're doing what we're doing. They got their marker of doom going there, and there are 2 more cars being taken off. So that's it. There's no way that car surely is going to get itself back to the pits.
It did look very, very fast, It just went sideways very, very quickly. Very little time to react.
Well, we're going to take a break. We're under caution for the 5th time in this race. We've still got 7 hours, 13 minutes to run. Stay with us here on Eurosport.
Welcome back to Eurosport. There's been loads of action here at the Le Mans 24 Hours. We've just seen a huge accident between the Corvette of Jan Magnussen and we're just seeing some of this again, and also this number 63 Porsche of Christian Ried, to the point where we had medical attention with Christian Ried. Just a huge impact. We're trying to determine if something's broken in the Corvette or if perhaps he had a surface change that affected the back end of that car, because such a safe pair of hands Jan is that we wouldn't expect this to happen, would we, Mark?
No, absolutely not. And just to say, it was called originally as a 77 car, which is the other Felbermayr car, the pro car. It's not, it's the 63 car. Christian Ried sharing with father and son Horst Felbermayr. Horst Felbermayr, of course, the oldest man in the race at 66 years old. Safety car then coming out to deal with that while the commissars, the medical people are there dealing with Christian. I think he's taken quite a wrench to his neck. It was a massive impact on the wall, and both cars going so fast at that point, as you can see, both heavily into the wall one side and just as heavily on the other side, hardly any dissipation of speed.
Well, I think what's happened there to Christian is that he's been hit squarely in the driver's door by the Corvette, for starters, and then he's been thrown into the wall. So he's basically been thrown from 2 angles of the car, which is when we see drivers that have been injured the most in a car, it's generally when that sort of impacts happen, when they've had it come from 2 different directions quickly. Yeah, so I do hope that he's okay, hopefully just shaken up a little bit and rung his bell a bit.
And there's Mags just getting out of the car and having a look at what's going on. Of course, Corvette drivers are told, do not get out of the car until we tell you from the garage. Do everything you can. The number of times we've seen these cars dragging themselves back to the pits. That's at the end of the day, if the car's not in the pits, there's nothing you can do. If you at least get it back to the pits, you can try and fix it.
Well, absolutely, that's part of 24-hour racing, really, and with your team, you'd be thinking things through. We used to get the team to make sure they taught us how to do absolutely anything. Lock the diff, get the rear deck off, anything, so that if you're stuck out on the track, you can still bring it home.
And of course, one thing you can't do, you can't carry a toolbox in these cars, so you can have basic...
But you can carry a mobile phone.
You can carry basic stuff, definitely. We used to carry a few basic things with us.
Abdulaziz Al Faisal earlier on the phone to his dad. I'm okay, Dad.
They always say it's the most important tool you can have in a classic car, isn't it? A mobile phone. So.
Absolutely.
We just saw a shot of Jan Magnussen looking around the right-hand side of his car, and I just wonder, was he surprised by? Well, obviously he was, but I wonder, does he think that it's been a mechanical failure?
This isn't good. This is the.
It's just a bit of.
It's not black smoke.
No, it's blue. It's oil smoke, just because the engine's idling.
Yeah. Okay. Good. That.
We've had a couple of little puffs even earlier from the Audi in the last safety car period. It's quite normal.
It's just with the slow running and So Marc Genet then our leader at the moment, as we behind safety car periods, as in comes the 56 BMW. Routine stop presumably for that car. This is the one that has Joey Hand has been on board. He's handing over now. So Joey Hand, another of these very talented young American drivers.
Making his debut at Le Mans.
Yeah, that's surprising in some ways, Liz, isn't it? Just Joey seems to have been around for the last 3 or 4 years.
I feel like I've been racing with them forever. And they've always been in a BMW most of the time, or the Panos. I think that's where we mainly saw them in the American Le Mans series. And they've also done quite a bit in Grand Am as well. And he's always been a very quick pair of hands.
Yeah.
It's just hard to believe this is his first Le Mans.
32 years old.
And Joey Hand. Safe pair of hands.
Hey, no pun intended, right?
And of course, he was going for the Grand Slam, wasn't he? He's won Sebring this year. He's won Daytona this year. Daytona outright, of course. Sebring in GT.
Fantastic year so far.
So the clock ticking down towards 8 o'clock here in France. Hopefully some of you waking up now in Britain. Those of you around the world, we know that Singapore, Australia, New Zealand are getting our pictures. And if you're listening this morning, Chris Parsons' son Timothy, he's in Singapore and he was watching us last night. So hi Timothy, hi Sue. Have another glass on us and
have some breakfast on us as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Singapore will be having afternoon tea by now,
I guess.
Probably in Raffles having a gin sling.
Nice.
So there's the BMW of not Joey Hand now. He's just, of course, handed over that car to Andy Priaulx, and he's held at the end of the pit lane until this 5-car safety car train goes by. There they go. The lights will now go green, and Andy Priaulx moves that BMW back into the race. But
no immediate signs of the safety car lifting.
No, they're still working. We can see from our commentary cabin, they're still down there.
As we rightly expected, this is going to be quite a long one, I think, because there is so much debris that was strewn across the circuit everywhere.
Well, also they're still attending to that driver in the Porsche, aren't they?
Yeah.
And of course, it's
obviously still in the car.
Distraction is much more difficult in a closed car than it is from an opening car.
I do hope he's okay. We will, as soon as we know something, we will of course let everyone know.
Yeah, so Wolf Hensler not involved in that, as we were originally told. We were originally told it was the 77 car, but then the ACA then changed that to say it was the sister car, the 63 car of Christian Reed. Just one Le Mans he's done before. He was here in 2006 with Xavier Pompidou and Torquil Turing driving also for Felbermayr, but they retired that car.
And the number 7 Peugeot was going to be heading towards the pit soon. We just got a shot there of Alexander Wirtz with his helmet on.
We see the number 33 car in the pits now, actually, the 33 car.
So Andre Lotter will go back into the lead when Genet peels off. And this is how it's going to rock and roll, hopefully right through until 3 o'clock this afternoon. So just to quickly go through the leaders. Marc Genet for Peugeot, that's about to change. Olivier Lombardo for Zytek Nissan, leading P2. AF Corsa, Tony Viander, leading for Ferrari in GT Pro, and in GT Am, Gabriele Gardel in the Labre Chevrolet Corvette. And Damien, that Chevrolet Corvette that Labre are running in Grand Am, that's 25th overall at the moment. That was used by Corvette as their mobile test bed at the test weekend here 6 weeks ago. So they brought the 3 factory drivers over and all the factory parts, and they ran those on this Labre car.
Yeah, I guess they're making good use of it, aren't they?
Yeah, well, of course it's saved having to come 6 weeks early to the race.
Yes, yeah.
So, I mean, Jacques Leconte of Labre obviously benefiting hugely out of that, because they're giving him a lot of assistance this weekend in return. So,
of course, yeah.
And that car is paying, because that Chevrolet is leading in Pro-Am. So Chevrolet could still come away with a win this weekend.
They could, absolutely.
Maybe not quite one of the cars they imagined would, but...
Yeah, one of the harder things for these American-based teams is to make it over for the earlier test weekend. Because then they need to leave, they need to either have some members of staff or something, Wow, we're just seeing Christian Reed come out. Oh,
yeah,
dear.
Doing a
He's
thumbs up.
waving. He's saying he's okay-ish.
He's just got a neck brace on him.
But like we said before, it's those double impacts from two directions that must have really shaken him up a bit.
That was Rainer Vassal from Porsche Customer Sport, Kundensport. He's responsible for supplying all the parts to the Porsche teams from the customer service wagon at the back of the pits. There we are. There's the RML car still in the running. Mike Newton on board that. Great to see him still running hard at Le Mans after the massive accident at Spa. But we're now down to, I think we're going to find in a minute, it's going to be 32 cars have retired. There's massive attrition this year.
Has it been that many?
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah, we're not counting Christian Reed's car yet, or Mags's Corvette.
It's just incredible because we still have 7 hours to go. I mean, it's quite often that we see, you know, a big majority of the retirements in sort of the last 6-7 hours, but already we've seen nearly half the field go out, haven't we?
Yeah, but of course, probably half of those retirements have been due to crashes this year, haven't
yeah.
they?
Yeah, we've had an awful lot of crashes, but
yeah.
I must say that's good news for Christian Reed, isn't it? That we've seen him, because the medical team were trying to extract him there, or trying to, I guess, stabilise the situation whilst he was still in the car for quite some time now.
It was probably hard to get him out of the car, actually, because where the car is actually stopped, and also the fact that he got hit squarely in the door, it looked like the first time. So
the transponder on the 63 car wasn't working, which is why we're also told it wasn't Christian Reed. We're now being told it's Horst Felbermayr Senior, not Christian Reed. So
we've got that all wrong in a major way.
Apologies for that.
No, it's the ACO who's got this wrong. The transponder wasn't working. First they credited that crash to the 77 car, then they said it was Christian Reed. They're now saying it's Horst Felbermayr Senior. Oldest man in the race, 66 years old.
Are they sure now?
We've
made their mind up?
All we can do is report what we're told by the ACO on their Twitter. So number 9 car did pit from the lead. Bourdais.
Just coincidentally, the Audi's been held at the end of the pit lane.
Yeah, but they'd have built this into their calculations, wouldn't they? They'd have known that. So presumably he was getting low on fuel, wasn't going to get another lap out of that car. And there we are on board with what is now a race leader again. Marc Genet goes back into the lead. But does he still owe us a pit stop? I believe he does. He's only had 18, hasn't he?
Who's this? This is not good.
No, that's the Audi.
Oh, he's waiting there.
Yeah,
it looked like it was just stopped on the track for a minute there. I couldn't tell it was pit lane. I was thinking, what?
I wonder what that does to the temperatures, or how good the Audi engine can stay cool when it's static there. It's just gone green and he's just gone out.
Yeah, but we just discovered how the air conditioning works. That they don't have air conditioning on the Audis. You know, it's a through blast, but apparently they do have an electric fan when they're stationary like that, which will blow the air through onto the driver to keep it at 32 degrees. Otherwise they can get a stop-go penalty. So out goes Benoit Trullier now, taken over from Andre Lotterer. And I have to say, Damon, at the moment, from what we saw last night, what we've been saying this morning, Andre Lotterer has, to me, been the star of the race so far.
Yeah, I mean, you know, God, I guess it's hard to pick one of them, but yeah, I mean, he's put in an amazing lap time there that we've just seen. The fastest lap of the race by quite a distance, and even quicker than qualifying.
Half a second quicker than qualifying.
Yeah, which is amazing. But you know, all of these guys are fantastic at the front.
But of course,
and he's doing a good job.
And that's been shared, of course, with Sebastien Bourdais. Did the identical time, but because Lotterer set it first, it was credited to. They're saying Trullier down here. Hey, we're going to a break. And we're going to take an extra break because Robbie and Johnny Herbert are waiting down in the Eurosport studio to bring you news in a minute. So we'll be back in about 5 minutes, but stay tuned to Eurosport.
With Wimbledon just down the road, the men get a taste of summer. But never mind the strawberries and cream, what they all want the most is to be the king of Queens. Today at 1700, the ATP final from Queens in London on Eurosport.
8 days in the French Alps, 1,000 kilometers of switchback cycling, including 4 mountaintop finishes. They call it the dress rehearsal for the Tour de France. No wonder. Today at 15:30, the final stage of the Critérium du Dauphiné, live on Eurosport.
For you to experience the greatest race in the world, Eurosport goes 24. From scrutineering to the podium, get set to live a full week of Motormania. Day by day, get to the heart of Le Mans with the magazine 24 Minutes and Johnny Herbert's daily reports. And you won't miss a second of the big duel between Audi and Peugeot, because the race is live non-stop on Saturday and Sunday. The Le Mans 24-hour race, all weekend long, live on Eurosport.
Well, we're here live on Eurosport, and we're back in the driving seat for talking about what's happened over the night. Johnny, did you have a good night's sleep? You got a bit of straw in your hair. Let me just...
There you go, thank you very much. Yeah, it was a bit rough, I have to say, but I survived, and we're here, and it's been an interesting night.
No, absolutely. The epic battle continues. We've seen Davison up against Vessler, the Audi and the Peugeot, the Audi 2 and the Peugeot 7. A big tussle throughout the night, quadruple stints, and you know, not even going into the pits. This was just literally overtaking each other, which takes us into a wonderful finale to this excellent race.
No, absolutely, and I think it was expected, because I think the guys needed to do these quadruple stints through the night, and I know there was a lot of pace cars out there as well, so that sort of obviously made a bit of a difference. But as you said, the battle's been pretty immense.
We've had Mike Rockenfeller with an accident just just before 11 o'clock. Mike Rockenfeller's okay. Two of the Audis, the Audi 1, I mean, you know, last year's winners going out. Big crash there around about 11 o'clock.
Absolutely. Well, it was very difficult for us to see, but you could just see there was just a very dark speck of basically just the monocoque. Everything else was absolutely destroyed, because it was a very high-speed accident. It was just into Indianapolis, which is normally where you don't want an incident to happen.
Well, I mean, that's two of the Audi cars. There's only one Audi car that's still left in the, in the race, really, you know, against the Peugeots, as the cars whiz past us right away. I mean, 7 hours before the finish, will that tussle continue? There's the Peugeot 8 just coming into the pits. And the 7 as well. It's all happening. Are we going to expect a big battle right through until the very end because it's so tight?
Well, I think, of course, yeah, they've got to push as hard as they can, and they're both aware, Audi and Peugeot, that they're going to have to do that. And it's all going to be down to the drivers. Of course, the mechanics now doing the pit stops are going to have to do it as quick as they can. But, of course, the drivers got to be as fast as they can as well, and as consistent as they can. And after we've seen the two Audis go out, keep out of trouble.
We know about the, the cooler conditions, it cools down the engines. There's some good lap times as well that have been going around. It's the perfect time to try and get a clear lap.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's something now, we've got daylight, that these guys are just going to have to sort of push. It's sort of the finishing line they can see. Now they've got to get there as quick as they can, and it's going to be the quickest who gets there.
We've also seen Michael Waltrip in the Ferrari 71 because of his participation in that crash with Audi 1, picked up a penalty, and Robert Kaufman, the driver, he's not allowed to race anymore. So there's just two drivers with 14 hours. I mean, that's difficult to manage, isn't it?
It is difficult to manage. It used to be sort of pretty much the norm many, many years ago. So they'd be okay. I think they'd be fit enough to do it. It's a shame for Mr. Kaufman, because obviously he's out of the race. It's not the first time I've heard about this happening, but when you see the inboard of Rockenfeller, you can actually see that he just moves over. You see the white line in the middle, He just creeps over it, and then of course Rockenfeller runs out of room. He goes on the grass, and then he just sort of basically turns left because of his right wheels are on the grass, and then we have the big accident. So it's a bit of a shame, but that's just where you've got to be very aware here and try and keep out of trouble. And obviously that Ferrari wandered offline.
Yeah, well, Mike Rockenfeller's okay, which is the good news. Alan McNeish is okay after that first incident, after just an hour of racing. There has been a lot of dramatical incidents in this race this year.
Yeah, no, there has been. I think there is always something going on here at Le Mans, and this is always what makes Le Mans really special. The accidents you don't obviously want to see, but it's always good when you know the drivers get out of the car without a problem.
Well, Johnny, we've got a show coming up at 9:30, Le Mans 24 minutes, so we'll be back with another edition of Go Johnny Go as well. But we'll give you an update, of course, you know, and tell you exactly what's going on, and lots of interviews down in the pits. But let's pass it over to the commentators. They've been working really hard. So take it away, guys, and enjoy this morning.
Thank you very much, Robbie. We've got mouthful of chocolate digestives here at the moment. John Hindhaugh joining us. John Hindhaugh, of course, the voice of Le Mans, the man who put under in Sunderland. And John, welcome back.
Hello.
You had a long night as well, of course.
Yeah,
Radio Le Mans.
managed. I've been in there for what, 5 hours now, just watching this tremendous battle as we've just gone back green, by the way, dear viewer, and watching this tremendous and enthralling battle between the top four, really, remarking on just how close the leading petrol car is. It was actually, I think a couple of hours ago, we were saying this, at this time last year, it was about 5 laps off the lead, and it was about the same this year, helped by the long safety cars, of course. The track rubbering in, as Tom Christensen said, both here on Eurosport and at Radio Le Mans, so expect to see those times coming down. What's really impressed me is just how the guys have been able to turn up the wick, though, Mark and Liz. But what is interesting, and I think good for the race, is quite clearly when the guys run flat out. Anthony Davison running flat out made 3 or 4 mistakes, went off the track at least 3 times that we saw, and then in that last stint when he was going very quickly, could only manage a 10-lap stint instead of a 12-lap stint. So clearly, as we've got someone else spinning on cold tyres, the sun's in our eyes here, but that's the Oak Pescarolo with De Rocha at the wheel. When you speed up and you have to push hard, it costs you fuel, and it can cost you as much as a couple of laps. Even the number 2 Audi, when Andre Lotterer was at the wheel, he lost a lap as well, or did one lap fewer than he could have done, because they've sped up. And this just means that the tactics means that this race is not cut and dried.
Oh, it definitely isn't. I think, well, we're seeing a huge difference in the pit stops that have been done. 19 for Simon Pagenaud, and Trullier's got 21 on the card already. Amazing that they're still as far up there as they are.
It's their average speed. So, you know, Paul Truswell, our statistician, the fabulous Paul Truswell, did this calculation in Thursday night practice, and in qualifying we talked about it here on Eurosport, didn't we? Where over an 11-lap stint or a 12-lap stint, the average lap time, oh my goodness me, I love the bravery of the marshals here, but it really does scare me when we see that happen right in front of Simon Pagenaud, the leader of the race.
He did a good job to miss that.
De Rocha being pushed out in front of him. Can't blame the driver there, because he wouldn't have been able to see. You can't turn your head around with the hands device on. Yeah, just going back to the point, you know, Paul said on Thursday night, the average laps over the stint, McNish and Capello, Dindo got a race here, unfortunately, 2 days before his birthday, 3:30.5. The best of the Peugeots, 3:35. Now, I think when we crunch the numbers from this race in the next week or 10 days, and certainly before we get to the Nürburgring, we'll be having a chat about this maybe on Midweek Motorsport at Radio Le Mans. I think we'll find that Audi had the pace here and the economy to win this race by a couple of laps. They haven't done it yet, but there's still time for them to win it if they can keep going, doing the 11-lap stints at the low 330s, or even better, the high 229s, 228s.
And if we don't have more safety car periods, that's the other thing, of course.
Well, safety car periods, interestingly, Mark, hasn't hurt them so much, because we had Timo getting 16 laps in a safety car period. The Audi seems to be very, very fuel efficient there. And of course, they're not losing any track position. They're not gaining it either. But it means that the extra laps that Peugeot get in fast running are slightly negated by the safety car period. The extra speed that Audi get when you're doing normal running is slightly negated. It's almost balancing it out. But I love sports car racing.
Well, that's what we're seeing now, isn't it? That it's somehow it's balancing out all the time, and I think we're not really going to have this we're not going to have our heads around what's going to happen until about 23 hours, I think.
I'm saying at about 25 minutes to 3 this afternoon.
Right. But we did, John, have this seminal moment about 7:30 this morning where Andre Lotterer put the fastest lap of the race in, which was a half second below that same car's pole time. And then what happened, Sebastian Bourdais? Does it matches it exactly to the 1,000.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's how they can respond to each other. It's like a giant chess game at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, that was a mid 26, wasn't it? And since then we've come down to a 25.2 for Treluer in the number 2 Audi, which is tremendous. The Peugeot hasn't quite got down to that kind of level yet, but Pagenaud, interestingly, being put back in the car when it should, of course, have been Lamy that was in the car. I think that tells you all you need to know about the mindset down at the French team at Pit In. Lamy, I'm not going to say he's been the weak link, but he hasn't had the outright pace of the two other drivers in that car. And Pagenaud in the early part of the overnight did an absolutely mind-bending stint. You know, we know Simon from the American Le Mans Series, Liz, and what's not to like about him? What's not to like about him? He's a great guy. He's so lovely to talk to. He's genuinely enthusiastic about all forms of motorsport, and my God, can he pedal a car?
What I like is that he always seems so unimposing. He's very just sort of polite and
approachable.
And he just seems really chilled out all the time. You put him behind the wheel of a car, and my Lord, does he go fast in everything that he's put in. And I remember noticing him a couple years ago in one of the prototypes. I forget which one it was. It was a few years ago, and I hadn't really seen him race much, and I just thought, Jesus, I mean, the time was just incredible. And I think we're seeing that in the Peugeot, and he'd be the guy they would put in the middle of the night, in the dark, when it's cool enough, and say, right, boy, get in there and do the times.
L'Equipe during the week had a lovely story about Simon Pagenaud, about the fact, you know, in America he's Simon to everybody, and he came back here to Le Mans and he's Simon again, and they said, welcome back, now you want to be French again. But
they're loving that he's the French guy in that car right now, aren't they?
But by the same token, John, Andre Lotterer has hugely impressed us. He was so fast last night, and again this morning. They've got Treluer credited with that fastest lap, but we believe that is actually Lotterer. He was in the car at that time.
It was what they do actually, and I've caught myself out twice with this. It's whoever's in that car at this moment.
Yeah, but it was Lotterer.
It was Lotterer. Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah.
Lotterer and Bourdais shared that fastest lap, but because Lotterer did it first, he gets it. Marc Genet.
Good morning, Mark. How was your night?
The first part of the night very difficult. I took the car around 9. That's when halfway through where the big accident of car number 1 happened. And then we had some technical problems which cost us dearly, cost us a lot of time. With the tire, we had the medium tires, didn't work. But this last stint, this last run was much better. We fixed the technical problem. We had the right tires, but it's so close, you know. It's extremely close.
Yeah, it's a big fight. We can see that number 9 and number 2 are fighting. It's incredible to be as close as this now.
Yeah, because honestly, I have no clue how that's going to finish. I don't remember in so many years such a close fight between two Peugeots, between an Audi. Okay, we are better on fuel economy, and that's good, but Audi are very quick, you know, so it's so tight. I don't know how it's going to finish.
Well, thank you, Justine. Marc Genet telling it like it is. Mark, of course, winner here in 2009 for Peugeot, together with Alex Wurz and David Brabham. And David Brabham, one of the race's big losses this year. This should have been here with Highcroft, as we heard earlier. Highcroft losing their Honda backing, so they're not here as a team, but Duncan Dayton is pushing this new Delta Wing project, which will take pit number 56 at Le Mans last.
Yeah, such a shame to not have them here this year, especially when they've done such an incredible job in the American Le Mans Series, second at Sebring. You know, I myself have driven with Duncan at Le Mans one of the year that we finished, and just a great guy, and is so passionate about his team.
Really interesting on the track now. We watching the battle for the lead, and behind them coming through, that's Sarrazin trying to unlap himself, and this could be a real fly in the ointment for the Peugeot of Ben Treluer as they're heading down to where Rocky's accident was. I had a chat with an eyewitness when I first came back into the circuit after nipping away for a shower. Now get this for some stats. 8 people in the 2 hours replaced 127 sections of Armco.
Wow.
That is manual labour in the dark while a race was still going on around them. Yeah. That's fantastic stuff. We've got photographic evidence of that as well. Now, the interest to me here is Trellier is a little bit earlier in his fuel run. The Peugeots should be peeling off into pit lane, and will Trellier have a go to get by? I honestly don't think anybody up and down. Oh, traffic now for the leader, and that's
the
really
worst spot to have it.
And look at the 8 car coming round the outside, trying to get right in the middle. That's Stefan Saracen trying to get in the mix. Really don't understand why Peugeot didn't let him go at the last set of yellow flag pit stops. They should have let him go and get his lap back when they held the lead. And here comes Ben, moving from side to side as the leader, Simon Pagenaud, is having to drive slightly defensively, and this is backing everything up. And there's another Peugeot not too far behind, which of course is the tall Austrian Alex Wurz. There he is, just coming past the GT car. So the top 4 cars, not exactly in order. We've got first, second, fourth and third. And this, can I just remind you how far through the race we are?
Exactly, that's what I was just thinking.
Coming up to 18 hours.
Looks like a sprint race.
Hello and welcome to Alton Park for a 20-lap sprint.
Exactly.
2.3 seconds, the gap between the top 3, and then Sarrazin a lap down on them, but he's trying to take that back as well. But Trellier, the man, the local man, of course, he's from Alençon, just up the road, like Sébastien Bourdais, very much someone from the Department de la Sarthe, and huge following. John, we heard 270,000 was the official crowd figure that came in for the start of the race. I'm sure most of those people will still be here at 3 o'clock this afternoon, because this is a Formula 4 type race
and
at Le Mans.
Very long gone are the days when you'd go to Le Mans, 24-hour race, and just look after the car and, you know, make sure that the times are nice and, you know, quiet so that the car's there at the end. Those days are way gone. Yeah, it's now a 24-hour sprint if you want to win, and that's it.
And you can't have any problems.
No, absolutely. It's a sprint with no mistakes, no problems, and immaculate pit stops.
Peugeot actually got cut a brake in the Magnussen incident. As we're hearing that the number 80 is slow. That's the Flying Lizard, and that is the car that's had so much trouble. It hadn't worked its way back up in the GT Pro category. Yeah, the Peugeot, as I say, got cut a brake because in the Magnussen incident, the 9 car was struggling with no radio communication. So when they brought that in under yellow, they actually replaced the onboard radio when they put Pagenaud in the car. It didn't really cost them any time because they couldn't get out before the safety car came around, so they were going to have to wait for the next safety car anyway, so they might as well do that. Otherwise, they'd have had to do that under green. Now, the leaders now are coming up against quicker traffic, and this is where things are going to get very interesting. And I'm going to touch wood when I say this. I hope these guys use a little bit more common sense than we've seen at some stages during the running. I got very scared earlier on when the 3 Peugeots were all running together and carved by the Robertson Racing Ford GT40 through the Porsche curves in a 12-wheel Porsche Peugeot trim.
I mean, 1 or 2 cars you might expect, but you may not realise there's a 3rd car lurking right behind them as well.
How can you see them?
It's difficult as well because that Robertson Racing car is actually doing an exceptionally slow time as well. So it's actually even slower than what those drivers are expecting.
Oh dear.
It's kind of hard to explain that, but
this may be a retirement for the car that has been leading 2nd place at the moment in GT.
Yeah, we've just been talking about that. Spencer Pumpelly on board that car.
Well, Jen Hart just sending me the message to say it's a major problem and we may be done. Update you as soon as we know more. Thanks, Jen, for that. Now, the leader again catching traffic in exactly the wrong place. Can't go down the inside there. This could be very difficult indeed. It's the 33. This is the Level 5 Motorsport, and Ben Trellier on board with him in the Audi now. Look at him moving around.
Oh, my God.
This is going to be 3 wide. You can't do that there, guys.
There's not room.
The laws of physics apply to you as they do to everywhere else. 3 prototypes.
Unless you're a lawnmower, you cannot be on the grass at that speed, I'm afraid.
Oh, my goodness me.
It's insane. This literally is like a 20-minute sprint race, isn't it?
Look at Wirtz as well. Look at Wirtz just dragging up behind them, nice and cool. Yeah. He's loving what's going on ahead, of course, because they're backing themselves up towards him. He's not had to really speed up that much. He's only doing a 3:30. This is bad for the Audi. It's been slowed down. It's not doing its lap times of sub 3:30. And Treluer here needs to just settle himself down and try and get himself into a position where he can make a clean pass. There's no second chances or third chances for Audi now. The other two cars have gone. He must feel like he's gone into the wrong end of a football ground. You know, he's got the wrong. Oh no, maybe not.
They'll be going for broke now, though, aren't they, Audi? They're just pulling out everything.
Oliver, thank you for answering us. Bad morning.
Yes, it's 2 years in a row that it's been like this for us. You know, controlling the race, being in the lead for so long, and then having this cruel luck. You know, just pleased that Jan is okay. Again, I think it shows the strength of the Corvette. With such a big hit, he's all right. But this is not what any of us wanted here at Corvette Racing. You know, we wanted to celebrate the 100th year of Chevrolet with a victory. And it's extremely gutting for all of us on the 74 car. I mean, the great thing is, and that's the reason why you run with two cars, and the 73 car is still running. And Tommy and Antonio are running very hard in that. I think Olivier's a bit unwell, so I think it's going to be Tommy and Antonio to the end, so we'll be supporting them from now onwards. But it's just so hard when this race, you lead it for so long, and you fight and fight and fight, and you fight with the best guys in the world, the best teams, the best manufacturers, and you think, okay, we've got everybody beat. But that's the worst time, when you think you've got it made, and then this race really bites you, and you can't do anything about it. Just have to suck it up and come back next year and fight harder and try and win it.
Yeah, John, that car he's talking about, Tommy Milner and Antonio Garcia, that's in second at the moment, but they are one lap down on category leader Tony Viander in the AF Corse Ferrari.
What a bizarre race it's been in GTE Pro, Mark, because Vilander has been in the gravel. He went straight on, if you remember, at Mulsanne. Nobody's had a clean run. Yardley Hastings' finest there, Ollie Gavin.
But while we're talking to him, did you see the dive that Alex Wirtz made at Mulsanne from way back? But no, Simon just shut the door, bang, stays in front, and this gap opening and closing, that is where the Audi gains time.
Yeah, but significantly, it was Sarrazin that went by Treluer. It's not a pass for position, but he's unlapped himself. And he's put himself as a tail gunner now, Mark, between him and Pagenaud.
So he'll do all he can to
my goodness me, one either side of the Labra competition. That's the second place GTE car. That's Tom Christensen's move, round the outside, all four wheels off the circuit. He'll get a warning for that.
Respect circuit limits.
Should get a warning for that. Oh my God. Dr. Ulrich just thinking, oh my God, boys, rein it in a little bit.
Dr. Michael Dick standing next to him.
Actually, do you know what? You see that from there? That is a brilliant piece of driving, because the Peugeot had to check up when Gibbon moved over on him, and he could have run into the pair of them and nailed them both there, Liz.
That could have been a huge accident. I mean, oh God.
Well, we talk about, you know, I've criticised some of the prototype drivers over the years, and there's another really aggressive pass.
That was really risky. And that bump there that you've just seen him go over is a huge bump. It really unsettles the car. It's a bump that you always try and avoid as a driver, and he's just gone straight over the top, full throttle, no backing off.
Sarrazin gets put back again where he was, and but still there, hasn't unlapped himself. Are we going to see
Let's have a look at this from on board and watch the Peugeot reverse back to you at 35, 40 mile an hour. Oh, goodness. Now, we talk about, as I say, I've criticised the prototype drivers in the past. That is split-second decision-making. And sometimes you're the bug and sometimes you're the windshield.
That's what makes these drivers the absolute top professionals that they are, because you know, anybody that can manage this sort of driving in a clump of cars like that with all the different speed differentials and keep their foot in it is got to be pretty special.
Yeah, but the Audi, of course, is carrying more downforce, and it's got so much more grip through the Porsche curves. Then this is where,
thank goodness,
this is where they're
That's
making
good
up.
news.
Now, just very interesting. I was looking at the Michelin Fuel Challenge a minute ago, and last night the 3 Peugeots were 1, 2, 3, and the Michelin Index of Performance. Only one of them is still in it now, so it shows they're starting to use more fuel than they were this time yesterday.
Yeah, it's the Michelin Green X Challenge is important because the winner of that gets an auto. Oh, hello, we've got a spin, and that is the RML car. Does it touch the wall? No, it doesn't. Nice avoidance.
There's flame out the back there, though. I hope that's just a...
That'll be just
oh, no, it is on fire. I don't know.
Turbo overrun, maybe.
Mike Newton on board.
It's quite a bit of flame coming out of there.
Mike had a nasty accident there a couple of years ago when he got sideways, and the car pretty much got airborne. We haven't seen so much of that this year, thank goodness, with the advent of the new fins.
They're running down in 5th. They had twice they've had to change turbos on the Honda, haven't they? So.
Yeah, not been a good night for the HPDs with Piers Phillips and the Stracker guys challenging for the lead of class. Yeah, and they were withdrawn.
Danny at the wheel when the oil pressure light came on, didn't they? So they decided.
Well, the reason the oil pressure light went on was he made a mistake, went over one of the sleeping policemen, the baguettes, and ripped the oil sump, ripped the oil pan off the bottom of the engine. That was.
That'll do it.
Yeah,
that's not a Danny mistake.
That'll do the job.
Very unusual.
Very unusual for Danny. Yeah.
They played. You know, we talked about this last night. They played the tactics fabulously as well, getting Nick in to do some of his time behind the safety car, which some of the other P2s didn't, and. Conversing with Piers electronically, he was very upbeat about the chances for that car.
So no win for Oxford United this year. That's a shame. That's Danny's yellow helmet, for those of you who don't know. Danny professes to be an Oxford United supporter, but Dag Clive yesterday was telling me, well, he only goes once a year, and that's on Boxing Day. And this year, last Boxing Day, it was cancelled because of the snow. So.
Flying Lizard update for the car that has been right at the top. And in fact still sits in 3rd position. Of course, it'll drop down for Spencer Pumpelly and Seth Nyman. That car, the 81 machine. It looks like Spencer lost the drive. He can't get the car any further. So effectively, whatever else, that car, I'm afraid, is out of the races. In comes Mike Newton.
Yeah, I think he's coming for a change of underpants.
Mike, a big supporter of the Vulcan to the skies.
And the Stig takes over. Ben Collins.
Great looking livery on that car, really works well. Well done to Marcus Potts. Let's get back down to the pit lane.
Dr. Ulrich, good morning. First question, how are your drivers?
Well, Magnus is fine. He was already here in our hospitality last evening. Mike Rockenfeller stayed overnight in the hospital, but after the scan we know that he is unhurt, and so we hope that he will come to the team this afternoon.
It is a really, really big fight with the Peugeot. You still have one car leading the race. I'm sure all the team is behind them.
Yeah, for sure. We fight for that. It's very difficult to be alone, but we try to make a good race out of it.
You are faster than the Peugeot, but the Peugeot are saving more fuel than you. Do you think you're going to make it until the end?
Yeah, I mean, we have to accept how it is. Okay. Sorry, what was the question?
Do you think it's going to make until the end? You are faster than the Peugeot. The Peugeot are saving like two laps, 1 lap of fuel better than you. Do you think you can make it until the end like this?
Yeah, we are on 2 different strategies, and we try to make it go to the end. That's our target.
You've just seen what Dr. Ulrich didn't notice. He's talking to Justine there, that Simon Pagano pushed down into 2nd place by Benoit Trullier.
Yeah, that was the little round of applause there from the garage. There's Lena Gears, who's the new #1 on that car, promoted up from data engineer on the 3 car. All bar one of the #1s and #2s at Audi are Brits, and all 6 of them are subcontracted in through Dave Ward's company at Brackley. Now this is dangerous times then for the #2 car of Benoit Trullier. He's into the area now where the Audi should have a bit of an advantage. A little bit slower off the corners, but he's got to get through the traffic mark.
Yeah, he's okay at the moment, but Porsche curves coming up where he has been quicker consistently. And just as we said that, we heard Dr. Ulrich talking about the fuel. Peugeot's now got its number 9 car back into the top 3 of the Michelin Index of Performance, the economy efficiency run.
Well, they've done really well with that. It's still amazing to me that Audi is leading, even with so many more pit stops. We wouldn't normally see that being the case. And it's going to be interesting to see now what Peugeot's got to bring. And certainly Benoit is really stretching the legs of that Audi. I think what he's done is he's capitalized on where he knew that car was quicker, where he knew it had more downforce. It looks like he's been lucky enough to get the Porsche curves clean, in which case he would have probably come into those curves saying, this is going to be the best I've ever done these, because that's his chance.
26.9.
Wow.
And he's opened that gap to 1.4 seconds.
Oh, good. That's what he's doing. He's capitalizing on that downforce, isn't he?
Yeah, 26.9, and the smile returns to Dr. Wolfgang Ulrich's face. Now he needs to have a good run down through the Old Forest S's and through Tête Rouge, Chemin de Boeuf onto the Mulsanne straight, the Lindois and Adier. Now, if I was Peugeot now, I think I might be saying that your fastest car there is Sarrazin in the 8. He's a lap down. Just let him get by these guys and try. Oh, the leader was held up by the remaining GT Corvette. And that has cost him a bit of time exactly when he didn't need it. And look at how quickly the Peugeot starts to reel him in. Yes, the camera foreshortens that. But there's the quickest Peugeot at the moment, the 8 car, with Stefan Sarrazin at the wheel. And I think I might be saying, look, you want your lap back, on you go, get by the guy in second and start getting your headlights around the wing mirrors of the Audi that's leading.
That's a good idea. No, actually, if they thought about it, that would be the right plan. I think I totally agree with you, John. And
Sarrazin's the man to do it as well.
He is, absolutely. No, I mean, I can't think of anyone else who can bring it to the party like Sarrazin can. When he's given a task, he does it.
Ralph Hüttner there just briefing the troops on what they're going to be doing for the rest of the...
Left hand in, left hand out.
This is line dancing, Ingolstadt style.
There is that fastest Peugeot we're talking about, the 8 car of Sarrazin. Looks very much composed through that second chicane, which is super bumpy, isn't it? Particularly on that middle apex.
It really is, and the curbs are horrible. You don't really want to be on them, but you sort of have to be if you want to be quick enough right now.
On the right there with the balaclava, almost unrecognisable, Brad Kettler, who used to run for Champion Audi. He's calling the pit stops for the lead number 2 car, helping out Lena in the strategy. He's loving it at the moment.
Brad is just a top guy.
He said earlier in the week, it's great, I still get to be involved, but I don't have to go to the meetings.
After what I heard from him last year about some of the meetings they had, I'm sure he's thrilled.
The significance of what John was saying is that the McNish car that was crashed was the North American Audi entry.
Of course.
So.
Brad wasn't working on that one though, interestingly enough. We'll be back with more in a moment.
Here's our race leader then at the moment, Benoit Trullier, but the man we should be watching, the number 8 car of Stefan Sarrazin, has just done the number 8 car's fastest lap of the race. And I think as John Hindhoff was telling us, they're going to try and play the hare with this car, get him leapfrogging over the other cars and then start to harass the man ahead of him here in the number 2 car, Benoit Trullier. But everything to go for. Trullier 2 pit stops ahead of the other 2. He's done 21 stops. Pagenaud and Wirtz have done 19. Sarrazin has done 20, but there's everything to play for. And we've still got 6.5 hours almost of racing left.
Oh my God, that's more than a 1,000K race we've still got. And these guys have been racing like this for, what, 18 hours or something? It's insane. It's just incredible. And what we're seeing now is the Audi making a bit of a stretch away from the Peugeot. What he needs to do is absolutely capitalize on the corners where they will be quicker. They're running more downforce than the Peugeot. So these Peugeots are going to be a little bit looser in the really high speed corners. It's just coming into the Porsche curves now. This is where this car can really pull well. He's in Mulsanne corner right now. Mulsanne corner. He'll be on his way down soon. So he's got to absolutely maximize those higher downforce corners where he can just pull that little bit away.
And also the temperature's going to start rising now. The track's rubbering in. It's not going to get any better than it is right now. The temperature's going to start to come up. Remember, Audi weren't so sure about their soft compound tyre. They knew that they were good on the medium compound tyre. Peugeot have only got I've got one compound fewer than Audi, but they were very happy with both of them, and we've seen during the nighttime hours and when it was dark that the Peugeots are very, very good indeed. And now they've got to go back with their daytime tyres.
Both got caught through Indianapolis behind the Porsche there, so that's slowed them even more, yeah.
Bad news while we're talking GTs. I'm hearing a possible problem for the number 80. It's been a bad 10 or 15 minutes for Flying Lizards with the 81 car, Spencer Pumpelly at the wheel. Looks like retiring from second place in the category. That car stranded out in the circuit. Now, come on, Olivier Canel, Bruno Famin, you've got to get Sarrazin by here. These two cars, Pagenaud and Sarrazin, are not doing themselves any favours by travelling in close company like this. Sarrazin's just rooting his front tyres because he's in the dirty air from Pagenaud ahead, and Pagenaud is wondering whether he's letting him through, where he's going to go. He's having to watch him in his mirrors just to make sure, just to slow him down a little bit. Yes, he's a very, very confident and experienced racing driver, is Simon Pagenaud, but Liz, you can tell us, even when you've got a teammate nearby and you're not racing, there's nothing worse than having somebody in your mirrors all the time.
No.
It just takes your attention.
It does. And at the same time, they're trying to deal with the fact these cars have been running for hours.
Yep.
They're trying to deal with the traffic. It's a lot to cope with. They're dealing with the fact they haven't had any sleep. I mean, these drivers are doing huge long stints. So a lot of what we've got to take into account as well is that while they're having to drive this hard, they're monstering the curbs, they're putting the cars at places of risk and putting them on different surfaces of the track that you don't really want to be on. They've had to run over dirty parts of the circuit, picking up different bits of rubber and debris. You know, they're hitting the bumps, they're crashing over the curbs. I hope these cars are tough enough to make the distance now like this, and you never know, we might see one that actually doesn't hold up.
And here is the update from the Lizard number 80. Lost a cylinder on that car. It's going back into the box, and they're going to have a look at that Porsche engine and see if they can get it running again. We did see last year, of course, at Silverstone, the ILMC Championship being won on 5 cylinders by a Porsche, when the championship leading car limped home to a 5th position to get the points that they required.
Yeah, and just as
I'm sure they can do 6.5 hours though.
As the car's in the box now, that moves up Augusto Farfus up into 3rd for BMW. So we've got Ferrari, Corvette, BMW, still Porsche. Pat Long tumbling down the order, but Patrick Pilet in the IMSA Matmut car will move up into 4th in that class. Great comeback from Raymond Mirac's massive shunt the other night. So bad they had to take the car all the way back to the Porsche dealership at Rouen, where their headquarters are, refettle it. Some say it's a different car that came back, but we couldn't possibly comment on that. But
won't be the first time, would it?
Racing. It is a French car, of course.
And you know, I think we've seen the most change-ups in the GT class that we've seen for a long time, because a lot of times you just see the cars that just settle in, bang in the laps, do the exact same thing over and over again, real reliability, and they've changed so much now.
But what has Seth Nyman got to do to buy himself some luck here? This place has not been kind to him. 2 cars this year for the first time, and within 15-20 minutes of each other, both having to retire, or at least having one retiring, one having problems, while in strong podium positions and challenging for a victory.
Well, at least he can lay back and say, well, at least he's been on the podium before. That does help a bit. I think I'd take that over a whole bunch of finishes.
Interesting statistics. Audi, the number 2 Audi, has had 28 minutes in the pits as opposed to 25 minutes in the pits of the car that's closer to him. So 3 minutes more in the pits, but he's made everything else up on the track, and most particularly through sector 3.
Interesting, of course, he has obviously had 3 more pit stops, 2 more pit stops, excuse me, but they have been consistently quicker at getting the fuel in, because they aren't putting as much fuel in as the Peugeots. They know they can't do 12 laps. Even running very carefully, they can do between 11.1 and 11.9 laps, and of course, point anything's no good. Leader into the pits. Let's get down there now.
Dirk, just finishing your stint, how was it?
Well, there's a lot going on out there on the track, and again, the race showed that it's non-forgiving. I saw the accident between the Corvette and the Porsche. That's really bad luck. I'm sorry for these guys that were leading with 1 lap. My stint was running very good. I could do a double stint on my tires again, and Dunlops were running really good lap times, and now we're back in P3. We came a long way, but after our tire damage now, our race went really well. So I hope
in the last 6 hours, we can fight for the podium.
Yeah, the race is still very long. The fight is hard in GT, like in LMP1. It's quite crazy, this race.
Yes, it's tough. I mean, the competition gets better and better every year. And you see on the first spots, there's 4 different makes. Everybody's going flat out. We have to give everything.
Are you enjoying it?
Yes, I'm enjoying it. This race is great. I mean, it's the best race in the year, really. And that our BMW is running so great gives us a lot of fun.
Thank you very much.
Leader came into the pits at that point, right on schedule. And which of the Peugeots was that we saw coming down pit lane?
That's Simon Pagenaud coming in.
On the same lap?
Yeah, on the same lap. Interesting.
Oh, but that is interesting.
Trillier, another enlightening stop, and that number 2 car during the night had the fastest pit stop of any of the front runners, 50 seconds to refuel.
Wow. I think that's a lap early again for Pagenaud. I'll try and check with Paul Truswell downstairs.
I think it is as well. But then could it be because they've had to push so hard?
Yeah.
It's time because when we saw at the beginning of the race, we weren't in the 320s at all. They were lapping sort of 330s quite repetitively, and now for the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours, we've seen, you know, times as low as 326, 328 being sort of a regular average. So I suppose you add that up over a couple of hours, and that's got to come down to a lap of fuel.
And of course, what all this is meaning as well, with the problems the P2 cars have been having, is that Tony Viander in that AF Corse Ferrari, leading the GT Pro category, is now 13th overall from 56 starters.
I wouldn't expect that, would we? I didn't expect that this year.
You always get a GT car.
Yeah, I suppose there's always one, but I suppose because we've not had, this is our first year without GT1, isn't it? And I suppose I just wasn't expecting GT as in a almost GT2 category stance to be that far up.
And remember, of course, we lost all the Peugeots last year, didn't we?
Of
and
course.
that let the Danny Watts, Johnny Kane, Nick Leventis, Stracker finish 5th overall, an all-time record for P2 cars at Le Mans.
Mind, they had a faultless run. I mean, they didn't do anything with that car. Better news I'm hearing from Flying Lizard number 80. I mean, it's still in the pits, but they think they might have found an injector problem on that car, which normally would be very bad, but they thought they'd lost a cylinder, as we reported a few moments ago. Jen Hart, the PR from Flying Lizard Motorsport, telling us that that car may well be fixable, and if we know anything about the Lizards, we know that they're not going to give up, and it will be all hands to the pump, literally all hands to the injector pump on that one to try and get it back out. So Trellier and Pagenaud pitting on the same lap. Interesting to see 3:34.4 on the in lap for Trellier, 3:34.8 for Pagenaud, but he's much further up the pit lane, of course. So it'll be interesting to see what the next lap is. That means that Alex Wirtz has gone through into the lead. The tall Austrian. Hello, Julia Wirtz, by the way, if you're listening in. Big fan of our midweek motorsport show on Radio Le Mans. Alex is in that car, and he's due a stop in 2-3 laps, I reckon, from here. Sarazan comes in. And that looks like he's staying in the car. Yes, he is. No change there. Now, I'm just trying to work out. Trellier's got to get a wiggle on here, but I still just think it's slightly advantage Audi at the moment. The prototype battle for petrol, undiesel, as Stewart and Martin called it earlier, which did make me laugh a lot, is the Pescarolo of Christophe Panso from Neil Yarney, who's dropped away a couple of laps now. And I tell you one thing I am a bit surprised at, my colleagues, is the way that the number 10 Orica Matmo Peugeot, last year's car, has slightly dropped off the pace in the overnight hours, because in the first 6 hours, 7 hours, it was hanging in there on the end of the lead lap and better when the pit stop cycled through. And yet it just, Liz, didn't seem to have the pace over the darkness hours.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and I'm not sure why that's happened, because certainly the drivers are up to the task. Makes me wonder if, you know, you never know if there's some slight niggling problem they're looking after, maybe a little bit of a, you know, maybe the engine's getting a little bit warm, or, you know, sometimes there's little things in the data where the team's just got to make the executive decision to say, look, you can't push that car quite as hard as you'd like to, but, you know, we can still keep it there or thereabouts. They're obviously not going to announce that to all of us. but it's very
Really?
possible.
Do you think not?
Yeah, clearly not. Yeah, I'd be great if they did. I'll go ask if you'd like. But,
well, that 10 car has just pitted. Luc Duval has taken over from Nick Lapierre, but they are 10 laps down on the race leader, as you say, and they've had 22 stops, the same as Audi. So they
and the times are not what they were. Agreed.
No.
And when normally in these top drivers, you see the times get quicker and quicker at night, especially when you go into the very early hours of the morning, which is what we saw from the other Peugeots. So it is a little bit surprising, as well pointed out, I think, John. And I think perhaps there's maybe a very small niggly problem going on there that's manageable, as long as they drive it accordingly.
So Greaves Motorsport still having a fantastic run, but touching all the wood we can find in the cabin. That car with Olivier Lombard on board, he's the debutant, and they're still holding the P2 lead in 9th place overall. But what a great run for Tim Greaves, and if they could pull this off against such amazing opposition, you know, the Eureka Nissans, and against RML, against Straka, all these people, if they could keep it there.
That would just be incredible, wouldn't it? I mean, it'd be a huge step up for him. The Radical had had so many problems for so many years. They kept trying to bring it back to Le Mans. Always the same reliability type issues that would plague them. And then one year, even a huge accident a couple years ago.
Yeah.
But, you know, this is showing the strength of the Nissan engine. I'm really impressed.
Yeah, in comes the number 7 Peugeot. I think this will be Wirtz coming in from the lead. As I said, I expected him in another couple of laps, and he has done that. So this will be the end of lap 252. So starting 253 for number 7. I'm starting to write this down now, because it's beginning to become important. That car, the 41 car, may well be the oldest car in the field, because it goes back to 2007, of course. Although bizarrely, it's now running to the new rules and gets the weight brake and the restrictor brake. And there's a lovely story with that. Tom Kimber-Smith, who's in that car, made his sports car prototype debut in that car at Silverstone. I was there, saw it. And he was driving with Danny Watts. It was being run by Lawrence Tomlinson, who's here this weekend, actually. Absolutely gutted that he didn't get an entry as a previous class winner. Can't understand that at all. That car, running as an LNT entered car, only took pole position ahead of the works cars at Silverstone, and it was Tom who did the time. Everybody thinks it was Danny. It wasn't. It was Tom that did the time. And you know, whatever you say about the state of the rules in P2 at the moment, it's not Tim's fault. Tim's got the best package that he can for Greaves Motorsport, and he's making the best of it. I'll tell you who's been an absolute star in that car this weekend is Kerry Moche. Every time we've spoken to him, said, hey, your lap times have been brilliant. I'm not happy with my performance. I'm going to go away and think about it, and I'm going to come out better for the next stint. And he's a gentleman driver. He's got lots of experience, but his times have been right on the money.
And I think the next question is going to be, I agree with you, I'm really impressed by that, but can he hold it together? Because we have seen in the past that Karim can be the one, when he gets tired, he has an accident. And, you know, I'm not trying to give him a hard time, but definitely we've seen it before. And I would love to see him this time keep the times going, keep pulling it together, and just do the business.
And in Olivier Lombard, the French have found another little star as far as sports cars concerned. We've known about Tom Kimber-Smith for some time, class winner, of course, here as, oh my goodness me, Sarrazan's got a stop and go penalty.
Pit lane speeding. He's only just gone back out, so must be pit lane speeding.
Could be. Oh, what a mess.
Or maybe one too many.
One too many. Yeah, he could be overusing the circuit. We don't know yet.
So that'll.
But that is going to be a disaster for that team. And if it is pit lane speeding, oh, what a silly thing to get a stop and go for.
What happens if Peugeot bring him in for the drive-through penalty and put him out just
right in front of the leader?
The leader, Benoit Trillier. How cynical we are. We're going to take a break. Back with Liz Halliday, John Hindhaugh, myself, Mark Cole, in just a minute.
Well, welcome back to the early morning hours of Le Mans with just 5 minutes to go before 9 o'clock Central European time. 6 hours and 5 minutes to go. And the big news in orange at the bottom of our timing screens, a 1 minute penalty for the number 8 car. Now, we didn't see any warnings, so that wasn't going out across the line. Yeah, that we would have seen that first. There's Bruno Famin, BF, and Olivier Canel, the man leaning over and listening to what was being said, we can't tell you what it's for. It's, I would say, not pit lane speeding. That would just be a drive-through. That would be a 1 second, not a 1 minute mark.
Yep, you're absolutely right. Yeah, just pick that up. So let's wait and see what
it must be pit lane procedure violation.
Yeah,
that's it.
Too many people working on the car, or.
Olivier, we just saw that the number 8 got a stop and go. Do you know? We just saw that the number 8 got a stop and go. Do you know what it's all about?
Yeah, because during the le ravitaillement, it seems that the mechanic forgot to wear something. But honestly, I think it's a little bit too much, because I can tell you, I saw the Audi overtake outside of the track and nothing happened, and he did it twice. So, what can I say?
Yeah, it's a shame, but they're still fighting for the lead. It's not finished, it's not over. It's still a long race coming.
Yeah, but everybody is having fun. It's real nice fight, and sometimes this happens for nothing, and this is it anyway.
So, Mark, the procedural problem, mechanic probably with no goggles down on that tyre stop that we saw on the 8 car. It sounds harsh, but this is safety that we're talking about, and I would be very surprised if they hadn't been warned about that at another time.
Yeah, a little bit of sour grapes there, I think, from...
that was nonsense.
Saying, oh, well, the Audi did something on the track.
Let's gloss over that. That's a tired man who is playing to his board members. Let's leave that to one side. No doubt.
So, positions then, Benoit Trullet back on top of the pile after 254 laps from Simon Pagenaud, Alex Vert, Stefan Sarrazin, who's still got to yet take a 1 minute stop-go penalty. That's going to tumble him further down the order. He's a lap down at the moment, was hoping to unlap himself to have a pop at Trellier, but that looks like being quite difficult. In 5th place, the Pescarola of Christophe Tanso, best of the petrol, and behind him, Loic Duval in the grandfather Peugeot last year's car in the hands of Hugh de Schonak's Oreca team. Leading P2, 9th overall, Olivier Lombard for Tim Greaves' Zytek Nissan team, and leading in GT overall, Jimmy Bruni for Ferrari. That's how it should be for AF Corsa there. And then down in 24th place, leading GT Patrick Bornhauser in the Labra Corvette. Be a lovely win this for Labra, of course, to back up their Celine win of last year in GT1.
Watch out for the stop and go. In fact, here it is now. Here comes the number 8 car into the pit lane with Stefan Sarrazin.
This is probably going to be the longest minute of his life.
Well, and he's going to be absolutely storming about this as well, because he'll be going on the radio. What have I done? What have I done? It's just a nightmare. He's turned the engine off, and the time is ticking away. It's just a nightmare. Nothing worse than having to soak up this penalty. The car is sitting there. The team can't do anything. The car's taking heat sink. We've seen that as a problem for the Peugeots last year. Thankfully for them and us, it would appear no recurrence of that problem. So just over 6 minutes to go, and about 20 seconds left on this penalty. Now, the car has to fire up with its own volition. Remember, one of the things about sports car racing under ACO rules is the car does carry a battery to start a motor, and you've got to fire it up. Now, what's happening here? Here he goes, green, fire, go, nice. He'll have been told in about 45 seconds that he had 15 seconds to go. He fired the engine up, knocked it into first gear, and an absolutely fuming Stefan Sarrazin will rejoin right in front of the leader.
Oh, especially with this. Yeah, well, hey, that's gonna be great.
Yeah,
That'll be making for good racing, but
all because one of the crew didn't have his goggles on, his safety goggles on.
This is just a mess, especially where this racing is so tight right now. There is not room for mistakes like this.
Bad news for Amaury Pescarolo. Christophe Tanzer, who came into the pits for a stop, could not fire the car up. That car, with Julien Jousse now aboard it, has been pushed back into the garage. So that car, which is 5th overall, will allow Loic Duval in the Matmut car, the Matmut Oreca car, to move up into 5th place. So we'll have diesels 1 to 5.
We'll just have to hope for the Pescarolo team's sake that it's something, you know, that's fixable, like the starter motor, or maybe just a battery charge problem or an alternator, and something they could put together again and get the car out running.
Sorry, was that the lizards you were talking about?
No, sorry, the Pescarolo.
Oh, yes, sorry, the Pescarolo. Yeah, the lizards as well is back on the track. Jen Hart telling me the injector wire, the cylinder number 1, was all that the problem was. So they found that really quickly. And sometimes, I mean, electrical problems are a nightmare to track down. So well done to Lizard. The back out and the number 80 car still in the hunt. However, Mark has dropped down the order by, what, 2 laps now?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's dropped down to 8th place, isn't it? The 80 car. It's the 80 car we're talking about. Yep. Dropped down to 8th in category and 21st overall, with Lucas Luhr now on board that car. I had a chat with Lucas last night, and he'd much rather be up in the prototypes, but oh well, he's gone back to Porsche, hasn't he? He's had his time with Audi, and he's back with his Porsche factory teammates Jörg Bergmeister and Pat Long, and let's hope that car can pull itself up. Just check through the order of GT Pro again. It's Ferrari, AF Corsa from factory Corvette, from factory BMW, from factory Porsche. Mark Lieben, that number 77 Felbermeyer car, last year's, of course, Le Mans Series champions. Engineered by Norbert Singer, the man who just will not give up, the grandfather of the Porsche 917, the Porsche 956, and all the 962 series fast, the Porsche GT1. I mean, there's no winning car that Norbert Singer hasn't designed coming out of Stuttgart.
And I think we wouldn't have expected to see Porsche off of the 1, 2, 3 this weekend. I sort of expected to see them really in the mix right at the front, and the closest one we have is the car of Mark Lieb, but he's a good couple of laps down from the front runner of Bruni.
But they've had such a horrible international sports car season, Liz. You know, haven't had any results at all, and you've had that Lieben Leitz car hasn't completed a racing lap until now. Got taken out in the start line incident at Ricard, got taken out halfway around Spa. It's just been a nightmare for them, and you know, I thought that we'd seen the turning point at the start of this race, that the qualifying pace wasn't there, but they had some pace from the cars out in race trim, but now I'm not sure, and I just wonder how much longer we can continue to compete, or Porsche can continue to compete with the rear-engine car.
I agree with you.
Sooner or later, they're going to have to bite the bullet and say, you know, the mid-engine configuration that they've stayed away from because it's not the top of the tree as far as their marketing push is concerned. It's got to be the right car to go to.
But part of the trouble is that having the rear engine, it defies the laws of physics to drive a Porsche. It must be driven a very specific way. You know, there
are some very good racing drivers who never get their heads around Porsches.
Exactly, and I mean, I remember from driving them, you couldn't drive them like you would any other car. You had to drive it, get it on its head into the corners, and it's a tough car to drive. And also, aerodynamically, we're seeing a huge difference in a lot of the new cars, and I think at Le Mans, maybe that's really helping them.
And Daily Sports Car reporting the engine covers off the Pescarolo now. They're also listening to us. They're saying John Hindhaugh has just told us one of the Peugeot mechanics is not wearing goggles. Keep listening to Eurosport too. You can learn everything here.
Welcome back to the last third of the race here at Le Mans for the 79th running of the 24 hours, the Grand Prix of Endurance. It's John Hindhaugh, Liz Halliday and Mark Cole. Good news for Pesca fans. The grand old lady, the grandfathered in car, is back out into the pit lane. In fact, has left the pit lane. Lost about 12 minutes with that problem that Liz was describing a little while ago. Tommy Milner comes in from second in GTE Pro. Jimmy Bruni leading that class, of course. Augusto Farfus in the 55 BMW is in third position in that category. Top two GTE Pro cars are still on the same lap, so we've certainly got a race there. And Farfus actually, he's only just off the lead lap as I'm looking at the split times there. And we're looking at the car we were talking about a little bit earlier on, the last year's, well, we were looking at last year's Peugeot and some action from earlier on, just showing how hard people were trying. Trellier not just hitting the bump there as he made that overtake we watched earlier on, Liz, but I think he was up on the curb on the inside there, and you really don't want to be there.
No, and that's just what we were talking about earlier, is that they're having to put so much pressure on themselves and on the car right now that it's going to be a matter of which ones are going to last now, because you don't want to be on a lot of these curbs at Le Mans, huge, horrible, chunky curbs that just monster these cars. It's bad on the suspension, the tires. You're risking all sorts of things.
It's interesting you say that, because the chicanes, particularly on the Mulsanne straight, if you take that, it's just, you're just going to grind your plank away straight away. These are live pictures from the early morning. Look at the beautiful light that we have here as the sun continues to rise. None of the rain that has been predicted at various times. Oh my goodness me, and again you see there, pick a line. The BMW is drifting across to take its normal line again, and in fairness, just kept on going, didn't come back.
No, I think he did the right thing there. And actually,
now watch, this is the normal line, comes out, and then he's going to come across to the left, which he does.
And that Audi was so stable there. I was really impressed. I honestly don't think that the Peugeot would have had as much stability if he'd had to make a change of decision at that sort of speed as well, because they're running such low downforce. We've seen them twitching around a lot when they've been behind the air of a GT car and had to move out.
And including the lapping of the traffic last time around, Trellier 3:29.8, and still the Peugeots 3:32.2, 3:32.9. They are running two a time to get them through the 12-lap stints.
They're trying to keep one more lap for the fuel, and that's their strategy now, isn't it?
They can't win it like that. They absolutely cannot win it like that.
They seem to think they can. Maybe they know something we don't.
We've looked at the numbers, and even if they get more safety cars, if the Audi keeps going on average 4 or 5 seconds a lap quicker every lap through the stint, then the extra pit stop that they're going to make in the next 6 hours, they'll come out together.
And just when you've said that, Simon Pagenaud's done a 3:28.3.
That's more like it.
So he's obviously heard you as well. Maybe they've got that radio Le Mans feed in
when they put the new radio in, they put it on 91.2.
Make sure there was a feed. Right, got ya. That's what's happened.
That's clearly what happened.
Well,
Pagenaud last stopped at 2:51. We're on lap 2:59 at the moment. The leader needs to come in on 2:62.69. And looking at the stats over the last couple of stints, and don't forget Trellier has been held up, on average he's only getting about a second and a half, as the 65 Lotus Evora has a quick rotational moment just going up the hill to Dunlop. It's Rossiter, I think, who's Jonathan Hershey's just got into that car, in fact.
Now that's a car we've not really seen a lot of in this race, but they've just kept going round, haven't they? Oh, maybe I should.
Jim Moore will kill me if we curse that car.
I won't say anything then. I've cursed a few already. It's going around the end.
The point I was making about Trellier, he hasn't been able to get the same average lap times. He's only about a second and a half quicker in the last stint and a half on average over the stint. He needs to be a little bit quicker than that, but it's not disastrous for Audi at the moment. So long as they are still quicker, I think you'll find that they're going to be there or thereabouts. As in comes the 41. This is the leader in, excuse me, no, he didn't come in, he's just come down the pit lane. The Zytec Nissan, Olivier Lombard, as I said before, a new star rising in the French sports car drivers' firmament. This young man who most people have never heard of. His dad raced here many years ago in an Argo, not under the same name in fairness, and Lombard has been the quickest driver in that car, and I'd have lost the house on that one if Eve would have let me bet the house, which of course that was never going to happen. But Lombard's really impressed me, Mark.
Yeah, firmament, that's very difficult to throw false teeth in, isn't it?
Firmament,
it's
yes.
a hard word. I've just been doing our board up here.
Yes.
Now up to 26 retirements, and the marker of doom is actually running out. We've had this for 5 years.
Oh no, it's done so well.
Well, I know, but
it's had hard work this time around.
Overtime, yeah, absolutely amazing. We look at the board of the 56 starters, only 30 of whom are still running at this stage of the morning.
Goodness.
But, I mean, the real story, of course, is those 3 Peugeots after their dreadful outing last year. Those 3 factory cars, just like clockwork, still chasing down that Trillier. And John, I mentioned last night about the Volta Naya in 1987 when the 3 Jaguars were chasing down the Dunlop Shell Porsche, and he told to this great quote in the pit lane. He said, "We have 3 Spitfires chasing 1 Messerschmitt," and
that sort of looks like Audi did last year a little bit.
Well,
except they were a little bit more spread out, but still, it was the top 2 were right there.
The thing now is, I mean, you mentioned something there, Liz, that I'd never thought of before. Clearly, to me, Peugeot have got a plan, and they tried a little bit earlier on when they fed Anthony Davidson a little bit of red meat and said to him, right, off you go, slapped him around a bit, told him he was a useless commentator and he was a crap Formula 1 driver, and he went out with the red mist down and off he went. And he ate up the lead, and yeah, he made a couple of mistakes. Yeah, he went straight on to the chicane. He ended up off the circuit a couple of times, got into the lead, lost the lead by outbraking himself into the first chicane again. But the key part of it was they couldn't then do the 12 laps. So we're back again on the 12 lap schedule, doing the 330s, the 331s, the 332s. They've got to keep an eye on this lappery now, because if they can't get the speed, it's going to be interesting, really.
Well, we've just seen a 2:26 from Benoit Trillier, so
incredible.
Somebody down in the Peugeot camp is going to have a big calculator and a big old piece of grid paper, and they're going to be working it out and say, is this really the way we want to do this? Or if Audi keeps putting in those times, are we going to shoot ourselves in the foot?
Anthony Davidson is saying at the moment in the pit lane, we don't have the pace to beat them on outright speed unless we take some chances. And I think that means that they're going to have to go back down to 11 or 10 lap stints.
I think you're right. I totally agree.
And basically just slap the guys around when they get in.
Because they're taking too many risks to do those times, and, say the cheesy thing we always say, to finish first you must finish. So they're going to have to get there. We're just going to go for a quick break. There is so much action here at Le Mans. Please stay with us. We'll be back.
Stuart Hall joins us in the booth. Liz Halliday, I'm John Hindhaugh. This is Eurosport at the 2011 24 Hours of Le Mans. And Stuart, since you were last here, absolutely nothing's happened at all. It's been terribly tedious.
Something's happened for me. I've had a great breakfast courtesy of Aston Martin.
Stop it. Stop
you were
it.
meant to bring us some. What happened there?
I ate it on the way.
You're sacked.
I was that hungry.
Get off.
That's no way to get a drive.
Didn't even bring me a coffee.
And that's awful, isn't it?
It's rubbish.
Think about that. Last time you and I were together, Stuart, we were just coming to the end of that long yellow safety car period after Rocky's crash. And since then, there's been no let-up in the action, to be honest. But we've got a Audi back at the top of the timing and scoring. Just heard Anthony Davidson talking to RadioLeMans.com saying that they knew they were taking chances in that last session, Liz, which is nice, because we were sort of looking at that thinking, oh, good heavens, they are really pushing, and they knew they were.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think they've had to dial it back a little bit, to be honest. I think they're realizing now that they cannot catch Audi with that pace without taking undue risks. We are way into this race now. We're only less than kilometers from the end. It would be silly now to throw it all away just by hammering the cars that little bit too much. I think they're just going to have to hope that their new strategy, whatever, if they're working now towards fuel stops, is actually going to pan out for them.
So Trillier leads out another 3:26 last time around, but the Peugeots are responding with Pagenaud and Wirtz. They've got drivers who can get down under the 3:29, 3:30 that we've been so used to seeing. Sarrazin now, though, as he uses his tyres, not able to get under the 3:30.
what we are seeing, Hindy, is I've noticed over the course of the race, in the daylight, the Audi seems to be the quicker car.
Yeah, I'd agree.
At the night time, when we were commentating before, although most of it was on the safety car, the Peugeot seems to be the quicker car, and now the track's rubbering in as well. The Audi just seems to be getting stronger and stronger and stronger.
We keep talking about tyres. Both of these cars are on Michelin, but I think it's important to state here that the Michelins that Audi get and the Michelins that Peugeot get will not be the same.
No, definitely not. Well, Michelin will be working very closely with each team, but they will be designing a tyre, based on that car. Yeah, specifically for the car. And I know we talked earlier with Tom Christensen saying they were on a medium tyre, and we've been debating whether we think the Peugeot is still on a soft tyre. I think possibly they are, because they've needed to change those tyres out. They've not done a quad stint for a long time, which begs to say, do they not think the tyres will hold up?
Well, Ant was the only one who's done a quad stint. It was done during the nighttime hours. Yeah. Christensen was telling us here that they were considering doing a 5-stint run on a set of tyres during the evening time. Certainly they could do on the softer, on the medium tyres. Now here is the leader into the pit lane on lap 261. Well, all right, going on to lap 262. He last came in on 251. Now that might be that's only a 10-lap stint, so that's 1 lap shorter than they really want. No thought of a driver change, no thought of tyres going on in that car. Wait. This will be a quickish stop. Expected to be under a minute, somewhere around 50 seconds, as through goes Pagenaud to retake the lead for Peugeot. Fired and gone.
That was a quick stop.
Well,
even with the
51 seconds in the pit lane. That's
maybe not that quick.
Pit out. Only a 10-lap stint. That is interesting.
What we are certainly seeing is the Audi seems to be lighter on tyres than the Peugeot, and that can prove very, very critical as this race comes to a head in a couple of hours. Every fuel stop, if Audi don't have to change the tyres as often as Peugeot do, they're going to save 20 or 30 seconds. That's all going to add up.
The other thing is, and we kind of touched on this before, but we'll repeat it for people perhaps who are just joining us, Audi aren't putting as much fuel in the car. And you say, well, no, they're filling it up. Well, yes, they may well be, but they're leaving fuel in the tank because they're not using all of it. And why do I say that? Well, they can't do the extra lap. If you can't do a whole extra lap, Stuart, there's no point in trying, as we saw with Frank Bieler for a few years ago. They're saying they can do 11.1 or 11.9 laps. Well, the point is pointless, in fact, because it's 11 laps or 10.
And I think, fuel around here is something you do not risk.
Correct.
Because it's so critical that if you risk fuel now and your car runs out of fuel at the Porsche curbs, well, all that hard work's just gone to pot, and you're going to look very, very silly.
What's interesting is that, well, clearly we're seeing that Audi is having more pit stops, but they're still in the hunt. And I think you guys have hit it on the head, really, by saying that they're putting less fuel in the car each time, so that's a little bit less time. They're going longer on tires, so that's less time. And it's looking like it's actually starting to even out. So even though Peugeot's getting that extra lap, it's almost like Audi's gaining it back by just having those little bits here and there where they're saving a bit more, little bits on the tire, a little bit on the fuel, and maybe it's going to play into their hands now.
I do think, I made a note in the first part of the race when I was bouncing up between this booth and the radio booth downstairs. We got to the stage after, I think it was about 6 hours 40, where Audi had done the extra pit stop but came out ahead of the Peugeots. So in 6.5 hours they'd built up enough on the stint to do that extra stop but still be ahead. And guess what? We had about 6 hours when we started looking at this, when they were all together. And I think it's going to be tight, but I think Audi, running at this pace, can do it. I think they have got the pace in hand to make the extra pit stop.
I think they can if they keep this pace up.
Yeah.
I think they can, but they have to keep it absolutely lit for the entire time, and no mistakes and no issues in the pit stops whatsoever. They have to keep doing the pit stops the way they're doing them, but they've got to be absolutely spot on.
I certainly think Benoit Trillier rising to the occasion. The attitude, just his whole attitude, the attitude of the car, the way he's driving is absolutely phenomenal. And anybody out there who's looking to become a race driver, watch that guy. He's a great guy to learn off.
We said earlier on when he was in traffic and he had all 3 Peugeots around him, including a lap car which was trying to get involved with Sarrazin there. He had a little bit of a go, he had a look down the inside, didn't think he could make it, he came away, didn't want to get involved with the Peugeots, and then gave himself a run to get into the lead. Now, all right, he got helped ultimately in the lead because the Peugeot got backed up behind a GT car, but I thought it was a really good, mature, patient drive.
I think the sign of a really top sports car driver is one who is so fast like he's doing, but can do it sensibly, and you know, can keep the risk to the minimal level that they need to do. And in this race, that's what it comes down to. That's what we've always seen in Alain McNish, Dindo Capello, all of those guys. That's where they've always shined, and I think we're seeing that in Benoit as well now. Is that, you know, he's thinking about what he does before he does it, but he's keeping it fast at the same time, and that's very impressive.
The 55 BMW, Augusta Farfus BMW in the garage, nose first, 3rd in class that car, as Peugeot get ready for a pit stop. Now I reckon that
Pagenaud,
should be
maybe.
the 9 car. Pagenaud should be first in, and it should be on lap 263, which is next time around. The 7 car of Wirtz, if they're going to continue to do their 12 lap stint, will be in as we trip over onto lap 265. Hanged off with pen and paper, shocker.
Wow.
And not just making bizarre pronouncements from nowhere but the back of his head.
I've not seen that before.
That's a scary thought, isn't it?
I have made an observation, Heidi, that you've changed your shirt since we last met.
Have I?
So, yeah.
Oh yes, no, I've been away. I went away and had a shower, and had about an hour and a half lying on the top of a bed with my eyes closed, listening to the radio.
See, Stuart, we've all had a shower and a clean-up, so it can't be done.
I've just done my tea.
Have you?
Yeah.
Well done.
Black the toothbrush.
Now this is possibly more information than you need to know.
I don't want to know whose toothbrush either. Let's just leave it there, shall we?
Yeah, well.
Moving swiftly on.
Anyone from several.
So, Le Mans 24 hours, guys.
Yeah, well, I've had a change of socks, a change of pants, and a change of shirt, and a shower. But no bacon sandwiches yet.
I haven't had any breakfast, and I think Stuart needs to go and sort that out.
Do I really? I don't think I could walk down there now, the amount I've just eaten.
Do you know, I used to think he was a lovely lad.
So did I.
I really did.
Sometimes.
Didn't you used to be a racing driver?
I used to be, yeah.
Oh, that was below the belt.
Yeah, I used to be, but now I'm a cricketer. Didn't you used to be on Radio Le Mans?
Yeah, I did. About 20 minutes ago. Right, here comes then the Peugeot. As predicted, it is the number 9 car of Simon Pagenaud, the leader of the race. Down to the pit lane speed limiter. What you also haven't seen, Stuart, is that we did have a 1-minute stop and go penalty for Sarrazin for an infringement during the refueling, which we believe was no goggles. Now this looks to me as though this is going to be fuel only. So on rotation then, Alex Wirtz will go through and take the lead for a couple of laps. Now, just to keep you informed, we're going to stay with this for a minute or two and then go down to Robbie and Johnny for 24 minutes out in the sunshine. It's warming up quickly. The wind is from the south, and I've just had a text from somebody who said it is raining quite heavily just under 200 miles away from Le Mans at the moment, so we'll have to keep an eye on the radar. I'll pull up the radar screen on the computer while you're watching 24 minutes, and we'll have a look at what's going on. So quickly, let's run through with 5.5 hours just over, still to go. It is Alex Wirtz leading, but needing a pit stop in a couple of laps time. Benoit Trillier for Audi in 2nd place, just 15 seconds behind, and that's a key because those numbers keep going down in favour of the Audi. 3rd place is Simon Pagenaud, and he'll remain in 3rd place as he goes out after the pit stop because it's only those 3 cars on the lead lap. First car off the lead lap is the Peugeot of Stéphane Sarrazin, and then Loic Duval is some 10 laps behind for the older Peugeot. Julien Schuss leads the petrol class. In P2, Karim Orje is back at the wheel of the Greaves Motorsport Zytek Nissan, which leads from the Oreca Nissan, the Signatech car, with Lucas Ordonez in the car. And there are laps between those. It's Jimmy Bruni who leads the GTE Pro and GTE AM. It's the Labra competition Corvette. 24 minutes is next with Johnny and Robbie.